What's up? What's up, family and friends? How you guys doing on this beautiful Sunday? It's beautiful weather out here in Southern California. I'm excited about right now. Man, it's just been a great weekend, all weekend. My son promoted from sixth grade going into seventh grade, and it was just exciting when we went to a Sweet 16 over the weekend. I actually got to perform the little ceremony for our good friends, and yesterday we went to carnival and went to my cousin's first birthday for his baby girl Emma, and today I had a beautiful service at church, and now we're here on this beautiful Sunday. Just want to thank all you, remind all of you to just don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit the notification button so you don't miss out on nothing. And just want to thank all you guys for all the support, just the care and concern that you've been pouring into the channel. Don't forget, spread the word, man. It's important for people to, hear these stories, because these stories are giving hope to families that have been trapped for many years. I mean, there's, just liberty taking place in the process. So just pass the word to anybody that you think would benefit from, hearing these powerful testimonies of, just a struggling life, to eventually finding their way out of it. And today, living in success. Some of them are still going through it, but they have a support network today and they're finding themselves, moving forward. So I would just, highly ask you guys to keep spreading the word. So today we have a very, very beautiful young lady with us. My good friend and producer, my producing assistant to the channel. He told me, man, there's this girl in my church. She's a young lady, but man, she has an interesting story. You need to, get a hold of her and ask her some things. So when I got a hold of her, it was like maybe 3 minutes into, our discussion. And I was like, yeah, I got to get you on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I am so excited, to get you on here. And it's just, man, it's crazy, man. It's crazy just because just listening to your story, to just a little bit you told me where you were at, where you've been,
Yeah.
and where you're at today. I was like, yeah, I got to get you on here. So,
Yeah.
so anyways, with no further ado, I'm just going to turn it right over to the lovely
Miley.
Miley.
Hmm.
I was going to say Miley.
Yeah, my first name is actually Miley Lali Lee Ho'opili Maka. Yeah.
It is. Oh,
Yeah. But
okay.
it's okay. You can do Miley. We're good
No,
though with
no,
that.
no, 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 no. We'll keep going with what it is. So, if you don't mind, just take us, through your life. Take us through
Yeah.
the journey and
Yeah.
go back as far as you can and tell us
All
about
right.
your early years, what it was
Yeah.
like in the home, in what city you were born,
Yeah.
brought up in, and all that good stuff.
Alrighty. I'm gonna start before me. So my dad was actually raised in England. And
Hmm.
so he moved here when he was about 18 years old. My
Okay.
mom is from Hawaii. And so she moved here when she was about 14, 15 to the States from to Montclair, actually. And so both of my parents were wild childs. Like my dad was in a band. And so like he like grew up playing instruments and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of got how he got in the lifestyle of using drugs. And so my mom, she just had a lot of issues and stuff like that. And so my dad was the one who kind of showed her like that lifestyle. They didn't meet till they were in their 30s, but they were kind of both wild. And so actually my parents only got married because my mom got pregnant and he was going to get deported because he already they were trying to lock him up for something. And so she was like, please marry me, like I'm going to get deported, they're not going to let me stay here. And so she actually married him with a ring pop because he didn't want her to get deported, or
Yeah.
yeah, she didn't want him to get deported on my behalf. And so they were like, when they before they had me, they were both addicted to heroin. And so they were like living like just wild lives. So when I was born, they were actually like really afraid because they owed the Chinese mafia money, like a good amount of it.
Oh,
Yeah. And
wow.
so like they were really scared. So when I was born, my dad actually was like freaking out. There was like people were like, there was like there's a green light for us. Like, like I'm scared that they're gonna try and take Miley from us, that they're gonna call CPS on us. So my dad put me in like a big puffer jacket. I was born in Oakland, California, so from the Bay. And so he put me in a big puffer jacket and snuck out of the hospital with me, my mom right behind him. Yeah, so they hid out at my aunt's house for like a couple months when I was first born. And so unfortunately, they like actually they were users throughout the entire time my mom was pregnant. And then after I was born as well, they continued to use. And so when I was about 2 years old, my dad actually went to prison, so he ended up being locked up for about 3 years or so, and so then it was just me and my mom. And so the one thing I wanna say is that, like, my parents were addicts, but they weren't bad people. They just didn't really know how to parent, and, like, they loved me a lot, but it was just unfortunate times, and they just really struggled. They were really just had really difficult time raising a kid, right? And so, like, I don't wanna come on and bash them, but, like, because of a byproduct of their issues with drug addiction, like, they really struggled. If you're a parent that struggles with addiction, know that your kids still love you and that there's still redemption for you and redemption for your family. So I'm gonna continue. Alright, so, like, I think some of my, like, early memories, I say this with, like, all humility, is that I've always been really smart. And so, like, from a really young age, I was always really good in school, and I was always I learned how to read at, like, 4 years old, and so, like, I was, like, a really smart kid, and I think God gave me that grace because he knew I was gonna need it to, like, survive in this world. And so, yeah, like, so sometimes my mom would just be so high that she, like, wouldn't wake up to take me to school, and so, like, I would go and I would, like, be like, "Mom, mom, mom," and, like, like, she wouldn't wake up, and I would call 911, and they would tell me, like, "Well, is she breathing?" And I would be like, "Well, I don't know how to check that." And so, they would tell me, like, "Well, check, is her chest rising and falling?" Or they would tell me to lick the back of my hand and, like, put it over her nose to see if she was breathing. And so I would, like, do those things to check if she was breathing or she was alive because she would be so high. And then, yeah, so, like, sometimes I would have to call the paramedics for her because of that. And so I started missing a lot of school because my mom's addiction and struggles and all that stuff. And it got to the point where the principal of my school actually was like, "You're too smart to miss school." And so she would get to my house at 6:30 in the morning and get me ready for school and, like, literally drive me to school. And at the time, I hated her for it because I was like, "Man, I could be, like, watching TV all day. I could be hanging out with my friends. Like, how are you gonna do this to me? Like, how are you gonna force me to go to school? Like, you're in my business." And so she would come and, like, brush my hair and get me ready and take me to school and take me home. And so, because she believed in me, she saw something in me. She's like, "This girl's too smart to just sit at home." And so, like, I think that's crazy now. Like, you'd be really hard to find a principal to be like, "Oh, yeah, like, I'm gonna go pick that girl up. Like, you call CPS and that's the end of it." But
Yeah.
she was like, "Let's be hands-on about this." And so, like, honestly, like, I was wild because my mom was, like, always just she would be gone for days on end. I was responsible for, like, feeding myself sometimes because she would leave and there'd be no food in the house. And so what I used to do is I did 2 things, actually. One thing I would do is my mom used to have her friends come over and they would all get high together, and then when, like, they were high, I would run downstairs from my room because I was always sent upstairs, and I would go through their wallets and, like, take cash from all of them. They're all and, like, I would run back upstairs, I would, like, hide it in my drawer. And so I would do that, and then, one of my mom's boyfriends, he was a loser, and he actually, like, stored porn DVDs in our house, and so I started selling them to the neighborhood boys, and so, yeah,
Wow.
I was selling them to the neighborhood kids, and they would actually, like, watch them and stuff like that, and they would pay me for it, and, yeah, and then, like, mama's boyfriend was like, "My DVDs are missing, yada, yada, yada." She was like, "I don't know what you're talking about, like, she's 6 years old, what is she gonna do with them?" And so I remember, like, taking that money and one of my friends, her dad used to sell boosted sneakers out of the back of his car, and I remember buying pink Iversons, $100 cash. I was like, "Yeah, yeah, here, give me those." And my
At
mom
6 years old?
at 6
Oh,
years old,
wow.
I was, like, on another level. Like, kids, people were like, "Your daughter's so beautiful," and I would be like, "You have a dollar on you?" And they'd be like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, give me that." And so
All the other kids are selling rock cocaine, they're selling, weed and everything, and Miley's selling, porn videos.
viewings.
Oh my god.
Viewings for them, yeah, I
Just
was
viewing wait,
v
just
and I
viewings?
would sell the DVDs too at a
So
high
you're like, "For
fee.
5 minutes,
Yeah.
$20."
Well, yeah, because
Dang.
I would also have to pay people to go to the store for me. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna give you $10. Can you please give me some Cocoa Puffs?" Like,
What?
yes, I
Yeah,
was
you're on a
like
whole different level
I
for
was
sure.
different. My aunt used her boyfriend used to always say, "That girl's an alien," because I used to text him from her phone and be like, "You're a loser, we're breaking up." Like, he would come to our house crying because she lived with us, and I was like and they're like, "Who did like, Miley must have done that." I was like, "I don't really know what to tell you," but
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
so, like, when my mom was sober, she would have bouts of sobriety, and so I think, one thing I'll say is that I became interested in medicine because My mom was she was a victim of domestic violence. It kind of goes hand in hand with the lifestyle, right? Like, you know, you're in drugs, you're in all this, like the guys you mess with. And so there was like an instance where I think I also like this like instilled in me this fear or like this blame. And so like my mom had put my earrings in like her boyfriend's like jewelry box. And so I was like, Mom, like I want my earrings. Like, can you get them out of the box? Like, I really want to wear those. Cause, you know, as a kid, I was all about the fashion. And so she went to go grab the earrings. And then he was like, What are you doing? You're trying to steal from me. And he actually like pushed her and she cracked her head on like the base of like a bed frame, like the
Mm-hmm.
metal ones.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember like being like six, like maybe 6.5, and like holding her head and like just like calling 911, and they're telling me like how to apply pressure and stuff like that, and like telling me to remain calm. And like it was like one of the scariest things. And I remember blaming myself because I was like, you just had to have those earrings. And so then like a year later, I was about 7 years old at the time, and we were at Red Lobster. And so she was actually, at that time, they had already gotten married. And so, you know, we were sitting there and I was like, oh, we're about to grub. So I took my shoes off because I was like, I had to let the dogs out, you know, you can't eat like that. And so I had taken my shoes off, and then she said, I'm leaving you. She throws the ring on the table. She got up. And then she was like, Miley, let's go. And I was like, oh, shoot, like, not my shoes. Like, so I'm like trying to grab my shoes. We're trying to make a
You're
hasty
like, what about my
exit.
lobster?
Yeah,
Dang.
exactly. I was like, I was gonna get linguine like on his dime. And so and so he gets up out of the seat, and he grabs her and he just like starts like beating on her, and like I mean like stomping on her face, and there's just blood everywhere, and like she's just screaming and crying. He's just beating her, and I grab like a steak knife and I'm just like trying to stab him with it. And one of the waiters grabs me and like he like pulls me to the back, and I'm screaming my head off. I'm like never been more scared in my life. And I think at like that age, I felt like both of those instances were my fault. And I had like started carrying that like burden, that guilt. And so, you know, a couple months later, luckily, actually, I remember talking to my mom about this instance, and she told me that after that had happened, that they actually closed that Red Lobster for like a couple of days, and then a lot of the people that were there had to get therapy because of what they seen. Because he like knocked the teeth out of her mouth, and so
Oh,
like
dang.
it was horrific. It was like absolutely one of the scariest things I've ever seen. And so, a couple months later, my mom was like a little sober at that time after that had happened. And she was like, Miley, we're gonna go shopping. Because sometimes she would do that. You know, she was a love bomber. So she'd be like, yeah, we're about to pop bags. And I was like, period. So, like, we're driving to go shopping. I fall asleep in like the back of the car because I'm gonna knock out here. And I wake up, there's someone like banging on the window, and I'm like, what's happening? And there's like cop cars everywhere. And like, I'm like, it's like this, like, it was like the most like stereotypical cop, like the mustache white
Mm.
man. And I was like, oh my God, this white man's gonna get me. And so like he gets out of he like gets me out of the car, and I like look over and I see my mom in a cop car screaming. And so I'm like, my mom's in the back of a cop car. He's like, you need to come with me. And I was like, oh my God. And I remember I spent like about 10 hours at the police station that night, just like sitting there waiting. They let me pick through like the lost and found. I found like a pink pillow. I remember that was a pink heart pillow. And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, I'm gonna take this.
And
And
this was when you were like 7 years
I'm
old, you're
about
saying?
7.5 now.
And still in Oakland.
Yeah, we're still in Oakland. I was if anyone's from the area, I was born and raised like in the Tenderloin district. And so that is the ghetto. Like, I mean, the ghetto. And so I'm like in the police station. I'm holding a pink pillow and I'm just like waiting to see what's next. Around 2 a.m., they take me to like some sort of foster home.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I get there and they're like, do you want a snack? And I was like, yes, I want a snack. Like this has been a stressful day.
I know, shoot.
Give me that fruit cup.
Yeah, give me that fruit cup. I was expecting lobster, man, but I'll take a fruit cup, huh?
And so like I remember them like giving me snacks and stuff, and I was like, yeah, this is good. Or like for now. And so that next morning I woke up, they had given me like a room. There was like 4 other people in there. And I woke up that next morning and a social worker took me on a walk, and she was just like, hey, you know, there's a family that wants to take you. They want to foster you. And I was
That quick, like from one day to the next?
It wasn't even like more than 8 hours.
Oh,
And she
wow.
said that that was a miracle. And I remember her telling me that. She's like, that doesn't happen. And so, like, this family, their names were Lee and Scott Fish. If you guys ever see this, thank you. They were great. And so they like had taken me in, and it was really tough, right? Like, I'm going from like, I'm living in like the projects, me and my mom, like I'm very independent already at a very young age to like living with these like white people. Like, sorry, I love white people, I promise. But like they were like full house white. Like, and I was just like, oh my God, like, what is this? And so, like from there, like it was okay. Like I feel like I was so traumatized. It was really hard for me to like be normal in some ways, but like I had to keep going to school and I had to keep living. And like, I lived with them. And about 8 months in, they were like, hey, like we want to adopt you, or you can go live with your grandparents. And I was like, I'm gonna go live with my grandparents. I didn't know them too well at the time, but I don't know. I think it just made sense to go live with family.
Mhm.
And that was a culture shock. So I moved from like the Bay Area to Rialto.
During this time, were you in communication with your grandparents?
No.
You weren't.
Like I would see my grandmother would come here and there for my birthdays, but my mom actually was really funny. So my grandmother came to visit. So she was staying with me and my mom. She's my dad's mom. She's my dad's mom. And so she sees this like big bag of like she knew something was wrong in our house. Like she knew that things weren't right. So she sees this big bag of like weed, like a stack of it. She's like, oh my God, I'm calling the police. So she calls the police and then they come. It was oregano. And so, like, my mom gets back and she's like, you're trying to get me, like, arrested for oregano?" And my grandma's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was, like, marijuana." And so she actually kicked my grandma out onto the streets. And, like, my grandma was from this area. And so, like, my uncle had to pay for her to fly back home.
Mm.
And so it was, like, a pretty wild story. So I would see her here and there. And so I was like, "Yeah, I'll go live with them."
So this was prior to you to the whole incident with your mother, you being taken to this home. So they would come every birthday.
Yeah, so about 4 or 5, like, she would come after that incident with the weed thing, which was just, like
Mhm.
yeah, so she ended up after that, they were estranged, so my mom wouldn't let me or see me after that. So I
Okay.
went about 2 years with, like, no communication,
Mm.
and so, like, it was my grandparents, and so they were, like I guess they were, like, fighting for me the whole time, but because my mom had parental rights, they couldn't just take me. She had to
Mhm.
relinquish those, and so she finally did, and so then they were able to take me, and that was like a culture shock. I mean, like going from like E40 Bay Area, my grandparents are English. And so like they would be like, Maile, put on your trousers. And I would be like, I don't know what you're saying. Like I would like actually cry because I would get so frustrated because they would tell me, put your trainers on, Maile, we have to go. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like it felt like I was put in like a house where they spoke a different language.
Mm.
And like they're having like tea time. And like I was like, what is this? Like I was like, oh my gosh. Like like they listen to like the Beatles. I listen to like crumping music.
Too short, huh?
Yeah, what's up? Anyways. And so like I mean, like it was a culture shock. I remember like I would cry all the time because I was just like, oh my gosh. And I had like a lot of PTSD at that time too. I would wake up like screaming, like, like from all the memories and all the things. And it was a lot of like opposition. My grandparents loved me and I loved them, but like it was really hard for them to understand where I was coming from. Like
Mhm.
I'm really young, but I've seen like the worst of life. I've seen the worst of men. I've seen the worst of everything. And I've had to do a lot on my own already to like relying on them and trusting them. And so like we constantly were at like ahead. And so I started developing this identity of like if my parents don't love me, nobody will.
Mhm.
Like, and that's how I felt, right? Like, my dad is out of the picture, like, my mom is gone, like, she ended up doing 5 years, by the way, so from 7 to when I was about 13, she was locked up, and so I was like, "No one loves me," and so, like, that was just, like, the reinforced thought, and, like, as I was just growing up, I just found myself, like, depressed from a really young age, and then when I was about 14 years old, I was getting into a lot of fights. Jojo, like, if you looked at me even, like, the wrong way, like, we were boxing, like, I really didn't care, I was about it, like, it was cracking, like, on the on any principle.
Dang, she got
Yeah.
principles.
Yeah, so it's funny because I would get suspended so much that, like, my mom wouldn't let me watch TV or my grandmother. I call her my mom, and so my grandmother wouldn't let me watch TV, so I started reading books. So I think books, like, helped me, like, kind of, like, keep developing my mind because I was reading them so much because I was suspended so much, and so, I read a lot of books because of it, and I ended up having to do, like, court-ordered, like, volunteers, so I was, like, volunteering at elementary school, and I remember that she was a Christian, and I only remember that because she was always listening to K or, what's the like one of the Christian
In
radios.
Rialto, like K-Dove or
Yeah, it was in Rialto. So she would always listen to it, and as I was helping her like do stuff, and I was like, "Man, this music sucks." Like I was, let me like just change this. There was no aux at the time,
mm,
but I remember that it was all Christian music, and like I remember how peaceful she was. So, anyways, it was the last day of a freshman year of high school, so I'm about 14 at this time. My grandfather was at work, my grandmother was gone, and I was like, "Guys, let's go to my house." And so in our house, we have like a bar, and so like and a pool. And so like we go and I'm like grabbing bottles, I'm pouring shots for me and all my 14-year-old friends. And like, yeah, and so like we're taking them outside, we're doing shots, we're like doing waterfalls of tequila, and just we're all just drinking. And I think like the more sad I was, the more I felt like I needed to prove to people how happy I was or how cool I was or how loved I am. And so we were like just drinking, and like we were just absolutely drunk. And like we started playing this game where we were taking a tequila bottle, throwing it in the pool, and you had to like go and find it. And like however long it took you to find it was how many shots you were gonna have to do. And so like we're like doing that, and then we get out of the pool, we go to my room, and like we're like trying to dry off or whatever, but everyone's just drunk. So my friend passes out on the floor. She's actually laying in her vomit. And then I'm just like, I can't even like stand up straight. I'm like just like completely like just inebriated at this point. And so I hear my dad, like my grandfather. And so like I'm like, oh my God, like he's home because he worked really hard. Like, I mean, he worked really, really hard. And so I heard him and I was like, we need to get out of here. Like I was like, we have to go, we have to go. And so like we walk out of my room, there's like six of us because I thought he had gone the other way. And so he stops us in the living room. He goes, what are you guys doing here? And I was like, oh, we're just like hanging out. And he's like, what's wrong with you? And I'm just like teetering like back and forth. And he's like, what's wrong with her? Like, what are you guys doing here? Like he's just like losing it now. And then, like, he was like, "I'm calling the police." And I was like, "No, don't call the police. I'm fine." And I just start projectile vomiting, and I pass out over the side of an ottoman. Like, I'm just like this, like, I'm like laid out, and I hear him say, "I'm calling the police. None of you guys move." And I like get up. I'm like, "Run!" My friends book it. They book it. And then I just like I'm out again. I like
mm,
went right back out. I was passed clean out. And so I woke up in a hospital bed. I had alcohol poisoning, and so, like, I'm, like, sitting there, I'm still kind of, like, a little drunk. They told me my, like, blood alcohol content was, like, 1 point something. So, like, they were like, "You coulda killed yourself." And I was just sitting there, and I just remember, like, laying there, like, I wish I would've. Like, I wish this would've killed me. And, the nurse, she was really, like, upset, and I was like, "What's wrong with you? Like, why don't you wanna have fun?" And she looked at me, she was like, "You're my daughter's age." And she said, "I couldn't imagine my daughter doing this." And
mm,
she said, "Can I pray with you?" And, like, I didn't know Jesus from nowhere, and so I was like, "Oh, sure, like, whatever, like, do your thing." And she prayed with me, and I remember, like, dang, like, like, I felt kinda good. And then, like, we ended up my mom and I went home, and so my grandmother and so we went home, and she was just like there was no trust in our home anymore. Like, after I did that, like, they were scared of, like, what I was gonna do, and rightfully so, because, from that point on, that was my life. Like, I would
mm,
leave the house when I could and be like, "I'm gonna go study," and I would, like, go get drunk up the street with my friends, and so I was just, like, drinking. Like, I mean, like, I would party. I remember, like, one time, like, I fell off a trampoline and then, like, sprained my arm because like I was so drunk, I just flew right off of it. And like I just thought everything was kind of funny because I was so sad inside. And my thoughts were always like, oh man, like, like no one loves me. Like you are not loved. You are not worthy. You are not loved. You are not worthy. And so I was just like constantly feel that way. And I just wanted to die. Like I had like no will to live. And so I think that like just released it dropped my inhibitions down where I was just willing to do anything. Like, you wanna drink, you wanna party, like, he's drinking and driving, let's go. Like, like, I'll get in the car, like, whatever it was, and nothing really mattered to me because I didn't care about my life,
wow.
and I didn't wanna live. And I remember, at that time, my grandfather got diagnosed with cancer, and so, they're Catholic, and so they started making us go to mass, and I hated mass. Like, I was forced to go, and the only reason why I wanted to was because we go to Denny's after. But I remember I was crying at home one day because I was like, "God, I think I hate you because I hate church." And I remember crying because I was like, "You're just such an evil person. Like, you don't love God, you don't love anyone, no one loves you." And, like, I remember I would just cry on our bathroom floor because I was like, "I just can't live like this." And it got so bad that, like, I would, like, start actually, like, cutting myself and burning myself just to feel something, just to feel, like, anything, like, or to someone to see that I am dying inside. I'm suffocating and I cannot live like this anymore. And so, like, it just continued that way where, my grandparents, they were in their 70s at this point, and so, like, and I had given them hell on earth, right? Like, me and my grandmother are arguing every single day, and I don't wanna do anything, and, like, it was just, like, I think they felt resentful towards me because they were like, "We take you in, and, like, you don't know how to act." And I felt resentful towards them because it's like, "You don't understand how much I'm suffering on the inside, how much I'm dealing with, and how much I can't even breathe." And
Mhm.
so, like, it was just this constant battle, and I felt like I was disappointing them at every chance I got. And, like, so at, like, 16, like, I just things weren't working. I was getting, we had got a court sentence saying, like, "Hey, like, she's not been going to school." And so, like, I was like, "Just let me be homeschooled." No, I must have been about 15. Yeah, I was about 15, and so they're like, "Let her be homeschooled." And so I switched to homeschool, and things got worse from there because I was isolated now, right? I'm spending all day in my room, sleeping till, like, 3:30, and then I'm, like, telling my mom I'm gonna go study, and then I'm gonna go, and I get drunk every night, every single night. And, I would just come home and, like, pass out. My friends used to we used to have a routine, it was so sick. They would, like, go to, like, the kitchen, they would grab, like, grocery bags, and I would throw up into those because the bathroom was too close to my grandmother's room, and so she would, like, hear. So, like, in order for me not to get caught, we would have to do that, and then they would, like, tie it up and throw it out. Yeah, it
Dang.
was nasty, but I have real homies. And so, yeah, so that was what it was, and then at, like, about 15 and a half, I tried to kill myself, took a lot of pills, just literally just started mixing them. I was like, "I hope this kills me." And so, like, I started taking all those pills, and I remember I was, like, just, like, cutting myself and all this stuff, and I was like, "I hope I die." Like, and so I ended up, like, my mom came into the room for something, and, like, I was very out of it, and she was like, "What's going on with you?" And so she ended up, like, taking me to the hospital, and they gave me something, and then from there, I had to go to a mental hospital. And, like, nothing is more humbling than being in one of those because you're not allowed to have shoelaces. You're not allowed to have, like, pants that have, like, strings on them. Like, they search you, like, and they make you change into their clothes, and, like, you can't have anything. And so, like, I remember, like, going through check-in, like, "What am I doing here?" And, like, every night, people would be screaming. Like, I mean, like, you would just hear them, like, screaming. It was like hell on earth being in there, and I was just miserable because I was like, "You failed. Like, I can't believe I have to live." And so, like, my mom came to visit me, and she was like, "I hope you learned your lesson." And, like, I just wanted to die again because I was like, "It's not like a lesson to be learned, like, I
Yeah.
just don't wanna live anymore." Like, I'm like, "This is miserable." They don't even have mirrors in there because you can break one of them and, um gash your like, slash your wrists with it, and, like, I'm, like, sitting with all these girls, we're watching Aladdin, and, like, there's some of these girls have tried to jump off overpasses, and others yeah, one girl, I mean, like,
Dang.
she had, like, cuts just everywhere, like, covered over her entire body, and, she had tried to, like, overdose as well, and, like, there was just, like, a plethora of, like,
Wow.
different kind of girls that were all just suffering.
So let me ask you something. So while you're there, were you able to finally like see a psychiatrist and
Yeah, I mean, I was seeing
social?
a therapist the entire time
Oh,
because I was a ward of the state technically, and so they make you see one. But, like, I think, like I've said, like, one of the best gifts God gave me was I was smart, and so, like, I knew that, like, I could say, like, "Oh, like, I like to
you knew how to
color."
manipulate them
Yeah,
the whole
like
interview.
yeah, and, like, again, I was a snacky kid, so, like, the therapist always had good snacks, so I was like, "Just give me a snack and we'll just hang out and play games, like, we're not doing this."
You're still going to get paid. Just let me color.
Exactly. Yeah, it literally,
Damn,
yeah, give me that,
you
like
sound like me and Y.
like, "Let me beat you at Moncala or Connect Four." I was like, "But what we're
Man.
not gonna do is get into this."
So did you end up completing high school? Did you graduate from high school?
So I actually graduated high school at 16.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I switched to homeschool because I refused to go to school anymore, I hated it. I had changed my whole look. I went from, like, relatively, like, normal girl, I had long hair. I had, like, shaved my sides, dyed my hair blue, like, I, like, completely changed, like, my entire style and everything, and I was just like, "Whatever, I don't wanna be here." So, when I switched to homeschool, even though I was sleeping all day and drinking all night, I would spend, like, 4 hours just doing all my packets because they were easy. It was easy work 'cause that program was kinda structured for kids that had, like, teen pregnancies and things like that, and so, like, I remember, like, one of my counselors saying, like, "You're too smart to be here," and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, give me the packet. Like, I wanna be here because I don't wanna be at school." And so, I did that. So I was just completing packets because I wanted to get out of school. I was like, I just, like, wanna be done with high school. So I graduated at 16.
Okay.
So, like, in the background of, like, all of, like, the shenanigans I'm into, like, there's
Mm.
somehow I managed to, like, get my, like, homework done, and I was really looking forward to college, and so I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I mean, not a single clue. Like, as a 16-year-old, like, my grandparents are immigrants here, like, the highest education they had was middle school. Yeah, no, my grandmother completed elementary school, that was it, really, and then my grandfather had completed high school, but, like, they weren't the most literate people, they definitely weren't familiar with education, especially higher education, and and the American system, like, they're not
Mhm.
from here, and so I identify a lot with, like, a lot of people who come from, like, Mexican immigrant homes because of that, because I know what it's like, they weren't very literate, like, I did a lot of, like, reading for them and going through their documents because it just wasn't easy for them to do, and so, I ended up going to college, and when yeah, so when I started going to college, I just didn't have, like, a really any clue what I was doing, but I just was like, "Yeah, this seems like what you should do." And I always tried to make my grandparents proud in some way, somehow. I couldn't always emotionally get it together, but I did play the flute, and so, like, I did that, from, like, 3rd grade to like, my sophomore year until I dropped out, and so, like, I would try and have, like, elements of normal for them, like, "Hey, look at what I'm doing, like, I want you to see this," like, I always got good grades, and they would always brag to our extended family, like, "Miley gets really good grades in school." So that's kind of like that was, like, me trying to show them that I had purpose and identity and value to them, like, "Look at what I can do, like, here, like, when it comes to academics. I can't figure out anything else, but I can do this for you guys." And so that's kind of how, like, our relationship was structured, was that they had things to brag about me, and we hid, like, all of the things that I was doing on the side.
Mm.
And so,
So
yeah.
let me ask you something. Did your mom and dad ever pop up, in spurts or anything
Yeah.
like that? Like hit and miss?
Yeah, so, like, my dad, I'm living with his parents, right? So he should feel comfortable, but, like I said, like, like, he was very, like, rock and roll band kinda guy, like, it was I think he loved me, but he just didn't have a single clue how to be a father, and so, like, he would tell my grandmother that he's coming next week, and I would stand at the window, like, waiting for him and sitting there, and he wouldn't show up, and, like, I would cry, and, like, I'd be like, "He doesn't love me," and so, like, again, reinforcing that ideology that really made me suicidal. And so he would show up here and there, and, like, he was always, like, really fun when he would, right? Like, like, "Hey, let's go get toys, let's go play games," and, like, all this stuff, and, like, and then he would be gone because he lived in San Francisco still, he stayed out there. And so, and then my mom, she came once when I was about 14 years old. I think I might have sent you that picture of me and her, I don't know if I did or not, but she had came and, like, I was really excited to see her, and she had already been out a year. So I was already sad because I was like, "You've been out a year, like, I thought you would come visit." Because when she was in Chino, me and my grandmother would go see her.
Mm.
And so, like, we would go see her, and, yeah, so and, like, it was funny because like, she would always be like my grandma would have to buy her, like, a lot of food because 'cause she'd be like, "Can you, like" food sucks, and she's like, "Can you just give me, like, one of those tamales and stuff like that?" And my grandma would be like, "Dang, girl, like, you're about to eat me out of, like, every dollar I have, like, you're not even my kid." But she would do that for me, and so, like, we would see her from when I was about 8, 9, 10, and then at that point, we were visiting her in the prison, which it's also a miserable process because I had my birth certificate is 2 pages long, and so it was really hard for us to get through a lot of the time because they were, like, looking at these 2 pages, and they're like it was so confusing, so they would have to go call someone else, and it was always, like, just a hassle to do it, but basically, we were there, something had happened, and, like, they ended up locking it down, and they were, like, getting us out, and it was just, like, a really scary thing 'cause they, like I don't really know I don't remember exactly what happened, but, like, I
Mm.
know that, like, the visitors had to leave, and it was just, like, a lot of commotion, so after that, I didn't wanna go anymore, and so we stopped visiting her. Yeah, so I mean, throughout those, like, first couple years of college, I was just kinda there, still drinking, still partying, and my mom actually, before she had me, she had 3 girls with someone else, and
Mm.
that she had kinda just, like, left, and so me and the oldest, my oldest sister, her name's Leilani on my mom's side, we had connected, and so, like, she was letting me visit her a lot, and so, I loved to stay with her because she had just had a baby, and so, like, I loved that baby. Her name's Lily, and so, my sister told me, like, "If you're gonna stay here, you need to go to church with us." And I was like, "Oh, you're kidding." Like, and so, like, I remember, like, I would show up to church, I'll show up ratchet. I mean, like, hair not combed, like, in, like, clothes from, like, last night, but, like, she told me if I wanted to, like, hang out here because I didn't wanna be home anymore because we were just fighting so much. I was about, like, 16 at this time, and so I wasn't in school anymore, and so, like, I would sit there with her, like, just, like, whatever, like, too cool for school and no desire really to do anything, and then I remember there was a Wednesday night service that she had taken me to, like, 'cause I'd been going there consistently now for a couple weeks, and, like, the pastor just, like, spoke, and I felt like, he had my card, like, he knew exactly who I was, he knew what I was and what I thought I was, and, like, he knew my struggles, and, like, I mean, I felt like he had read my
Mhm.
diary or something,
Mhm.
and, like, now I know that was the Holy Spirit, and he was like, "One of you guys really needs the Lord. You have been desperate for a parent that loves you, and I wanna tell you that the Heavenly Father loves you." And I was like, like, and I was so desperate, right? Like, I, like, had failed to commit suicide, like, I'm drinking so much and this like, I nothing means anything, and, like, I remember I would used to get so drunk, I would just lay and look at the stars, like, wondering what all of this was about, like, what does life even mean? Why am I here? Why can't I leave? And, like, begging God to kill me because I was afraid to come try and commit suicide again. So I was like, "God, just kill me." Like, those were my prayers, like, "Just let me die." And so, that Wednesday night, I got up and I was like, "God, I need you." And, I didn't know what it was gonna look like. It definitely wasn't a perfect transition after that, but I stood up at that altar, I said the sinner's prayer, and, like, honestly, like, I remember walking out of there, like, with a little pep in my step, like, "Oh, I know the God now." And so, like, it was, it was definitely like a really good moment, and it wasn't perfect, I kept drinking still, and I remember, my pastor's wife, she had asked me to take her to the grocery store, and so, like, we're driving, and, I'm hitting, like, the brake, and I can hear, like, glass clinking, and it goes clink, 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 and I was like, "Oh, shoot," and then I was like just kept driving, turned up the music a little bit, I'm, like, putting on the K-Love now, I'm like, "Oh, shoot, like, hopefully she won't hear that," and then I hit a brake again, and clink, 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 and she's like, "What is that?" And I was like, "I don't know, it's weird." And, we get out the car, she's like, "Pop your trunk," and I was like, "Ah, the trunk doesn't pop," like, it just doesn't open, and she's like, "Pop the trunk," and I was like, okay, I popped the trunk, there's, like, 4 bottles of, like, Amsterdam back there from, like, a weekend prior. She was just like she's like, "This the life you wanna live? You want 2 lives?" And I was just like, "Well, I don't really know." And, like, she was like, "Okay." And so we went to the store, actually, we came back, and then I got back to my sister's house, and I was like, "You know what? Like, I think I wanna stop drinking." And, like, by the way, like, getting alcohol as a minor is tough. Like, you gotta put some effort in, you gotta do some Mr. Misters, like, you really gotta put in work, and so I said, "I don't wanna do this anymore." And so I, like, to go and, like, I grabbed the bottles from my car and, like, we start pouring them out in the sink, which I mean, like, I was, like, worth something back then because, like, we
Mhm.
were we were paying a good penny for those bottles because we were underage.
Mhm.
And so, my friends were mad. They were like, "You did what?" And I was like, "I did it for God." And from there, I started cleaning up my act. Like, from there, like, I started serving. I, like, did VBS, and I loved it. And so, like, I was, like, just slowly but surely, like, God was just sanctifying me. He
Mhm.
was just, like, pulling away, like, all the lies and telling me, like, "I'm gonna give you an exchange of identity. Like, you think you've been this your whole life. You've been the smart girl that doesn't have any love. No, that's not who you are anymore. You're my daughter. I love you. You're seen. You're known." And so, like, a constant exchange of identity, and then also developing the gifts that I had, right? Like, I knew that I was smart, didn't necessarily know how to use it. And so from there, I started going to college classes and taking it really seriously. I transferred to Riverside City Community College, and I started taking science classes because I was like, you know what? Like, I've been like, I feel like I've already kind of been like a healthcare worker, right? Like, I took care of my mom. I used to watch her do like her injections and take her medicine. And I was like, I think I can do something like that. I could really help people. And so I just started taking that more seriously. It took me a lot longer than what it should have. I graduated at college in 2021,
Mhm.
and I graduated at 16, right? So that's 2014. So it took me 7 years to get my bachelor's degree because I just, like, I think I did that math right. And so, like, it took me a long time to get it right, to figure it out because I just had no guidance and I was still overcoming all these strongholds and developing a new identity. And so, but God got me through. And there was like days I remember I had like a mental breakdown in like a Walmart parking lot. So I was like crying my eyes out. I don't know why there, but that's where the place I was at. And some guy like knocks on my like window. I was, oh my God, like he's gonna kill me or like whatever. And then he's like, roll down the window. And I was like, mocos everywhere. I like rolled down the window and he goes, why are you crying? And I was like, because I don't think I'm gonna graduate because I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm so like, I don't know like anything. I'm so tired. I'm like bawling my eyes out to this guy. And he goes, yeah, I hear you. And he just starts talking to me and he goes, well, like, where are you at? I was like, well, I'm like a junior now. And he was like, that's really cool. Like, well, you've made it this far, so why won't you finish? And then he was like, do you read your Bible? And I was like, what? He was like, "Yeah, you do you read your Bible?" And I was like, at that time, like, sanctification's a process, right? And so, like, I'm attending church and I'm serving, but, like, I don't know if I have, like, complete intimacy with the Lord where I'm, like, reading consistently, and I was like, kinda." And he's like, "The Bible is a believer's instructions before leaving earth." So, Bible. And I was like, "Wow." And so he starts talking to me, he goes, "Yeah, like, like, I'm homeless right now and I lost my kids and I'm trying to find a job and stuff like that. And so like I've just been like really relying on God and I believe that God is like trying to show you that he's going to take care of you. He was like, you don't have anything to worry about. Like you're going to be okay. And like I till this day like still kind of think he might have been an angel or something. I don't know, but like for someone to be in the trenches, right? Like I'm crying about my college classes and he's crying about like, trying to feed his kids, but like for some reason the girl like screamed crying in her car like he felt compelled enough to come and talk to me and to like bring me back down and like from that point on actually I felt a lot more confidence and peace about everything and so I'm forever thankful for him.
Man, shout out to that homeless dude, man.
Yeah, I would have never in my life approached a screaming crying girl like
Yeah.
in her car in a Walmart parking lot. It was crazy.
You never know who God's going to use, you know what I mean, to bring that word of encouragement, that moment of just inspiration to keep moving forward, don't quit.
Yeah, literally. And so, like, like that's also what all of us are capable of doing, right? Like
Yeah.
meeting people where they're at, like it can be like a little bit of a trajectory shift of where someone can go. And so I graduated college in 2021 and it took me 7 years, but it got done. And I was like, you know what, Lord, like I want to keep going. And so I went back and I got my master's because my undergrad GPA did suck a little bit. I won't lie to you because I was working too. I had to work because I had to provide for myself. I was no longer living at home. And so I'm working two jobs. I was exhausted. I was just like struggling. And they had my grandparents, because of everything that happened, they had kicked me out when I was about 20. And so like I was able to live on campus from like August until December, but all the December 15th to January 15th, I was homeless or I didn't know where I was gonna live. So like, while all my friends are worried about like finals, I'm worried about where am I gonna live? Like, I have no idea where I'm gonna live, and I also didn't know where I was gonna live for summer breaks. And so, like, I was always just like so stressed out and so wound up because I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna stay. Luckily, my pastors were willing to like take me in. And so, like, I stayed with them for winter break, and then I stayed with a cousin over summer break. And so, like, I was like able to like find places to like kind of like sleep.
Yeah, God was providing for you.
Yeah, and I think, like, during when you're in the midst of it, you're just like, "Well, why do I have to be provided for? Like, why can't I have parents that, like, I can go home to? Because all my friends are going home for Christmas break,
Mm,
right? They're gonna go live with their families, they're making sugar cookies, and I'm, like, just, like, bumming it, like, sleeping on the floor in my pastor's house, like
mm.
and so, like, there were blessings, but, like, that's what it felt like, and, like, a part of me was just, like, resentful that I didn't get to have, like, a completely normal college experience because I'm always worried if I'm gonna be homeless or not. And so, even when I graduated, I had to go live with my friend's grandma, and so I, like, had to live there for, like, 2 months, and, like, it just sucked because I just felt like I had nowhere that I belonged. And so, like, I knew that God was real, and I knew that he loved me, but I still didn't feel like I completely belonged somewhere. And so, like, I think that's, like, a really hard feeling for a young woman, especially. And so, it was just like a constant battle to graduate. And so my GPA wasn't the best. Like it was honestly a miracle in itself that I was able to finish, like working 2 jobs. I was tutoring on the side and I was just like hustling. Like I stopped selling porn DVDs. So I had to find a new thing to do. So and so that was kind of that. So I had to beef up my GPA in my master's program. I was like, you're going to have to do this master's program. You're going to have to do really well. And so I did the master's program. I did really well in fall semester. And then in spring semester, my grandfather ended up passing away that March. And so, like, that was the only father that I had ever known. And I thought, like, I was scared, like, when he died. I was so scared. It was honestly one of the most miserable feelings of my life, and, like, I felt like a piece of me had died, and, like, a lot of what I did was for them, to try and show them that, like, I appreciate all you guys did for me. Like, my grandfather worked until he was, like, 75. Like, yeah, he was, like, up at 5 AM, out the house by 6, and he worked until, like, 2, 3 PM and came home, and he did that to provide for us, and so, like, I wanted to show him, like, "Hey, like, I know I put you guys through hell, but, like, I'm trying to make something of my life. I'm trying to be something." And so he died before I could graduate, and, I was scared that I was gonna sink. I was like, "I'm gonna sink back into a place that I don't wanna be in." But, God gave me people. That's what he gives us sometimes, right? So he gave me community. He gave me my pastors. He gave me like friends. He just gave me people. Like my classmates came and they would bring me dinner every single night for about a month. And my professors gave me like a month off. They're like, we're going to freeze your classes and you can come back to them to like allow me the time to help my family pay for the funeral. Well, not pay for the funeral, but figure out everything, get the details like ready. And so, like, that was, like, that semester, and I still graduated. I graduated with a 3.8 GPA, and, like, that was, like, God showing, like, I'm always gonna take care of you. I always have you, even in the, like, face of, like, death and darkness. I'm always gonna be your heavenly Father. And so he's not just mine, he's yours. I'm not special. Like, God just has taken care of me. And so, he's been really good. And so I applied to medical school last year, and like, I looked at my, like, scores, JoJo, there was no reason why I should have been accepted. I mean, absolutely none. My, GPA is 2.48. The average accepted is a 3.78. That is, like, a huge difference. My MCAT score was a 499. The odds of getting into medical school with that are less than 1%.
Wow.
Yeah, like, you need,
That's
like,
favor. That's favor of God
550.
right there.
So what happened was I actually, when I got my master's, I took this trash job. It wasn't trash. It was a scribe job. But the thing about the scribe job was they pay you $15 an hour. And like, I mean, I was gonna be so upset because I was like, I have a master's degree now. Like, I'm someone. And
You're entitled, huh?
yeah. And they're like, yeah, here's your $15. And so that's how I felt though, right? I'm someone, and like I have a master's, I got a little hood on my like grad coat, and yeah, $15 an hour. And I was like, God, I can't believe I'm working this job. Like I hate it here. And he was like, yeah, anyways, like keep going. And so I kept going, and when I started that job, it was really hard for me. Like, I mean, it was a really difficult job. Like, you're responsible for so much information, so much medical information, and like it was really tough for me to do. And so, but slowly but surely, like, I mean, I was at that hospital 5 o'clock in the morning till 7 p.m. at night. I was there 2 hours before everyone, 2 hours after. Like, I was like, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna get good at this job with my little $15. And so like I stayed there and I grinded and I grinded. And then that second year I was there, they had put me at a different hospital, and they started having me work with actually the chief of cardiology. And like we were talking, we got along really well. And at that time I was really good at my job. I mean, like really good at what I did. And so I told him, would you read my personal statement? Which basically my personal statement is the story we just spent the last 40 minutes talking about. And he was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was in October, and I had already applied. Like, I'm not really hearing back from schools like that. And so, I'm waiting on him to get back to me. I haven't seen him in a couple months now. So October to like February, I didn't see him because he wasn't doing clinics. And so I was like, man, like I need to find this guy. And so he comes to the hospital, and I seen him, and I was like, Dr. Williams, like, have you read my personal statement yet? Like, please tell me you've read it. And he was like, oh no, I haven't. Find me after the shift. I was okay, okay. And so I get off work and I'm like looking for him. He left. So I asked the medical assistant, I was like, hey, can I have his phone number? And so she gives me his phone number, and I was like, hey, Dr. Williams, like, I know you're busy, but can you please read my personal statement? And so he goes, okay, like, I'll read it. So that Monday, like, that's that conversation. Wednesday comes, and he like texts me, okay, like send it to me so I can read it right now. So he reads it, and which is me telling him my like story basically. Friday, he calls me and he goes, hi, Dr. Wilkey. And I was like, hi. And so like he tells me, he's like, you're gonna be an incredible doctor. You have an incredible story. He's like, you need the opportunity to show them what paper can't show them, what
Yeah.
grades can't show them,
Yeah.
what like who you are. And he's like, I'm gonna help you. And I was like, oh my gosh, like okay. And so he emails Loma Linda Admissions and he's like, okay, I'm emailing them right now. And I was like, well, do you think this is really gonna help? Because like I told you, like my GPA wasn't that great, my MCAT score wasn't that great. Yeah, I did well in my master's program. That's only one part.
Mhm.
And so I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work. And so he emails them Friday. Monday morning comes, I get off work and I get home. It's 2:42 and I have an email saying, you've been invited for an interview with Loma Linda. And I lost my mind. I was like, I have never ever like I mean
That's
like
what's up.
I was like, me? Like, they're gonna let me have an interview. And so I got the interview and I actually met with my professor the day before. And this professor, he keeps it real. And so he would always tell me that you're not ready for medical school. He was like, you're not ready because like you just have so much going on and you're not focused on like your schoolwork all the time, which he was right because like I was like working 2 jobs and like I got my family, like I got all this and like I just had a lot going on at any given moment in my life. And like so we talked that night and we did a mock interview. And then like as we sat there, he was like, you're ready. He's like, I see it in you. And like I believe that like my relationship with God getting better and like God like correcting everything and like bringing me community and like I got my own apartment and all these things are coming together. Like that all coincided with me being ready now to like pursue this journey. And so we did that mock interview. He's like, you're gonna kill it. And so I like walked into that interview. It was virtual, so I logged into it. And so I like logged into that interview and I think I did really well. I mean, I would say so because I got in. And so I did that interview and they told me 2 to 4 weeks, but it took 3 months. And I was like, at the end, like at first I was like really like, yeah, God, I have faith. I believe in you. Like, and then like by that last week, I was just like, like playing the violin for myself. Like I was telling her, like, I don't have faith anymore in this because like, you know, God would have already done it. And so I'm just gonna let this go. Like, I'm done with this. And so like um it was on the 23rd, so it just passed. It was a Thursday. I was laying in bed. I had gotten off work early and I was just like depressed. I was just decaying. Like honestly, like, ugh, like I'm so sad. Like I'm not gonna go to Loma Linda because I love my church. I love my life. And I was getting ready to go to a medical school in the Caribbean because they're easier to get into, but like it's harder to get back here to get like a residency spot to like actually practice medicine. And so I was like getting ready to like move out of the country basically. And so I was just like really going through it, get a phone call and I was like, hello? And she's like, "Hi, this is Sarah Roddy from admissions." I started screaming. I was screaming. And I was like, "Wait, hold on. She might be telling you that there's something wrong with your application, that like they're rejecting you." And I was like, "Sorry, what did you have to say?" She's like, "That you've been accepted." And I lost it. I
Oh,
was like
wow. So
screaming.
that was just recently, last week?
Yeah. Cause like when we had met, I was getting ready to go to medical school in the Caribbean.
Mhm.
And so like I was like, oh my gosh. And she told me, she was like, there's gonna be a lot of people who are excited to hear this because all the doctors in my department were backing me up. I had favor, like where all of these doctors were like reaching out. They're like, "Hey, like, have you seen Miley's application?" Like they're like, you know, they're fighting for me, like to get into this medical school. And so the doctor that helped me get that interview, the one who
Yeah,
emailed,
yeah.
he calls me. I told him, I text him, I got in, like I got in. And he was like, I can tell you now that a month ago, she had came up to me and told me, like, oh, like, you know, so Miley, like, what about her? Like, I'm hearing such all these good things about her. Like, you know, so they had a conversation about me. And then she said, I'm gonna personally review Miley's application myself. And so like the dean of admissions, like top dog, right?
Mhm.
Like looked at my application by herself and like looked it over and read it and was like, yeah, like this girl, like, I don't know, like I'm gonna give her a shot. And I really believe that what that was the Holy Spirit. What that was favor. What that was that like everything that I have been through, everything that like all culmination of all these events were going to be me met right there in that spot. And God was like, I'm gonna show you like that it was all worth it.
Man, that is so awesome. Hold on, man. I gotta go ahead and hear this one right there. They can't hear it, but we can hear it. That is so awesome, man. I am so happy for you, man.
Yeah. So I start this fall.
That is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
Yep, Dr. Wilkey 2028.
So from trying to take your life to now going to save
Yeah.
lives. That is crazy, Miley, man.
Yeah. And so like one thing that I felt like God had just told me recently is that I healed your mind and now you're gonna heal people with that mind. And so like that's what you're gonna do now. And so like I'm like, I can't believe that this is like my life and that I get to live it. And I'm
Yeah.
really blessed and thankful.
Very blessed, man. Yeah, that's just the beauty of just surrendering to God and God just figuring everything out. When God says that, He has a plan and a future for us, I mean, you could
He
bank
ain't
on
never
that.
lied.
He ain't never lied,
Jeremiah
man. Here you are.
29:11.
There it is. You got it.
Plans to prosper you.
Yeah.
And I don't think he just prospers me for me, right? I have a testimony. Like, there's kids who come from my background, from these streets, from these same struggles that think that like they can't make anything of their lives. And it's like, well, you can. Like, God can do the impossible. Like, and like I feel like when he does these things, because I can never ever tell you that this is by my own will, by my own intelligence. It's not. It's by God's faithfulness. Like, it's by him having mercy, having favor, having grace on my life. That like honestly, like I could have gotten shot and killed. Like, it's almost happened when I was little. And so like the fact that like
Not
I'm
only that though,
alive.
but your mom and dad are both using drugs during the pregnancy. I mean, you're
Yeah.
born. I mean, you could have been born with all kinds of different defects. It was like the odds were against you from the beginning.
Stacked. Yeah.
And it's like the devil, the devil don't know all things, but he kind of sees God setting up things in the spiritual realm, and
Mm-hmm.
he probably seen the angels surrounding you during them early events and be like, there's something special about this one right here.
Yeah.
I definitely need to get her hooked on drugs. I need to get her, selling porn. I need to get her all twisted
Yeah.
and then, take her out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And that
hey,
was the plan. But like
but what the devil meant for evil, God definitely is turning around for
exactly.
your good.
Exactly. Like I remember like I told them on Sunday, my first car seat was like my dad brought it to my mom. It had like glass all in it because he had stolen it from
Stole
someone's
it.
car. He had like shattered someone's window, boosted it really quick. And so like, that's what I come from. Put in a puffer jacket and like stolen car seats and
Yeah, that's crazy. From the very beginning, she was kidnapped by her own dad from the hospital
yeah.
just because.
Yeah. He
Dang.
wasn't playing those games.
Yeah,
Or
that is
even
that is
like I think I
crazy.
forgot actually, like it was pretty crazy. One time my mom had she had like scammed her boyfriend or something like that. She had like
Mhm.
left the house. And so he held me and my mom's best friend at gunpoint and he told her like I will kill her like if you don't get back here right now. And like I remember like staring at the gun, like staring down the barrel of the gun, like, oh crap, like mom better get back here. Like, like it was like really scary things that would happen, like stuff like that. Like I could go for days with stories like that. I'm just like all the craziness. But overall, like, I think that it has made me humble. It has made me gracious and it has made me a lover of broken people because
Mm,
I know exactly those who've been forgiven much forgive of much.
yeah,
And so like I know how much I've been forgiven of. And so like I'm here to love on people and forgive them and to show them like this is what God can do.
yeah.
Like this is my banner.
That is awesome, Miley.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you, for just man, just pushing through all of that crazy stuff to think that man, you said 2008 you'll officially be a doctor. I mean
2028.
2028. Yeah, 2028.
Yeah.
Yeah, man,
So,
that's gonna be a big celebration.
oh yeah.
Hey, so let me
You're
ask
invited.
you.
We're gonna get a yacht.
That is cool.
I'm kidding. Well, I'm actually not. I'm gonna
Yeah.
make that happen.
Just
It's gonna be a yacht party.
remember us little people, man. Remember us little people when you get there, man. Because I could use like an upgrade of some microphones or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah. You call me. I had a checkup for you anytime you
Yeah.
need
She
it.
got to check. Oh, yeah. Check this cough right now. Nah, I'm just kidding. Nah, man. That is so cool though, man. So let me ask you a serious question though, real quick though. Did your mom and dad up to this point have they got their stuff together? Have they?
So they're both sober. I don't know if you
Okay.
know, like methadone is like a really big
Oh
thing that
yeah,
they
yeah.
use. So my
Coming off, yeah,
yeah,
narcotics.
so my dad is still on it, and
Okay.
so but they're technically not actively using. They both actually live up north, but they don't live with each other. They haven't seen each other in like a decade, if not, maybe closer to two
Mhm.
now. And so my mom remarried, and she's sober. She actually practices witchcraft, and so like yeah, she's a Wiccan, and so that's like why we like right now like we don't even talk because she hates when I start talking about Jesus, and I hate when she starts talking about witchcraft. And so like we've had a lot of juxtaposition. So I haven't spoken to her in like about 2.5 years now, but she's sober, right? Like, so we're like, the groundwork is there. And like from what I've learned about her from her childhood is that my grandparents are believers. And so like, like I believe that there is like a harvest there that will be plowed one day. And so my dad is, on methadone. And so like it's a little bit better, but
Yeah.
we'll give him some credit. And he's been trying to find the Lord, and he reaches out, and I've been trying to get my place, like get to a place where like I'm able to like completely reach out to him. So I'm praying continuously for forgiveness, because or that I forgive him completely, because I want to see like what God can do.
Yeah. Well, as long as they have some breath, God's able to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. 'Cause I know some old people, especially like heroin addicts and stuff, that were old in their addiction, and God ended up, saving them in their latter years, and they just, man, the joy and the excitement, they were like, man, I wish I would, got saved, much sooner, but it is what it is. I know my eternity now. I know God's written my name in the book of life, and that's what matters,
Yeah.
so.
And I mean, like, she woke up breathing today, I think. And so if she woke up breathing, that means that God is giving her time to change her confession.
Yeah.
And so like the day of salvation is always near. So I'm believing.
We're going to pray against that witchcraft, and
Yeah.
just pray that Holy Spirit just, gives her that encounter, and, sets her on the right path, man.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, real quick, we're not going to finish just yet, though. But do you mind if we open up for some phone calls?
Sure.
Go ahead and put it, Rob. Let's do it. And let me go ahead and just verbally, you'll see the phone number on the screen, but let me give it to you. You would think I would know my own phone number by now, huh? But no. It's area code 626-367-9275. That's 626-367-9275. If I don't answer right away or you don't hear me, just stay on the line. Don't hang up, because I don't know why it does it, but it just never accepts like the first call. I have to like log in and log out, and it's just crazy the way that happens. And let me make sure I have all my phone lines on, because I got like 3 different phone lines. Okay, let me see. Let me make sure the Bluetooth is on. Oh, we already got someone calling in already. Let me make sure.
The hotline is blinking.
Thank you for calling in. Can you hear me? Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Let me get you actually on the sound system. Hold on. Don't hang up. You see what I mean? Let me make sure. Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, now we can hear you. You can hear her, right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Hi guys. Hi, this is Danielle, Miley's cousin, her favorite cousin.
Hello.
Miley, I just want to say how proud I am truly, like, of everything that you've like accomplished, like just like growing up together and just seeing like the lifestyle that you did live, like, and how you are now. Like, it truly makes me proud, and I'm so glad that we have each other in like each other's lives, like to go through all these things together and just like experience life together. And I'm just truly grateful, like, to have you here, and our bond will never be broken, and I'm so proud of you.
I love you.
I love you. I love you, girly pop.
Do you have a question, friend?
No,
Jojo's
but
looking
I
at
just
me
wanted
like,
to
we're
do
supposed to
that.
do questions.
Nah, it ain't just questions.
Yeah, no.
Thank you for calling in and encouraging her, man.
Comments, yeah, questions, comments. No, I think you guys covered everything.
Yeah.
Plus, I know everything. But if there's anything else that the people want to know, let me call back.
I just want you to know that I've been seeing you on your faith journey right now, and that like I'm glad that, like, you know, like my life is a testimony to what God is doing, and I'm believing that God is going to continue to move in your life. I know that like the
Oh,
Bible's
most
still intimidating
definitely.
for you. This is the cousin I do Bible telling novellas with her. So like I talk to her and like tell her Bible stories, telenovela style.
Oh,
And
okay.
so like I get into it, and so
Wow.
and so I'm believing that God is gonna really show you who He is this coming year, and I
Oh,
think He's
yes,
already been
most
showing
definitely.
you how faithful He is. So I'm just really hoping to
Yes,
continue to see that.
most definitely, most definitely.
Hallelujah.
All right, guys, I'll let someone else call.
All right. Well, thank you for calling in. God bless.
Okay, God bless.
Bye, Buki.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So, is she a cousin from your dad's side or from your mom's
Yeah,
side?
from my dad's side. She's actually my cousin's daughter, so we're second cousins. But
Oh, okay.
basically, like we grew up together from a really young age.
Oh,
and-
so she's a testament to what you're saying right now.
Yeah.
She
Sign off
knows.
on that. And so
Yeah.
like, and isn't that cool? Like, you know, I have a lot of cousins, like being able to like show them like what it looks like to live for Christ and like what Christ has done. Cause like we all come from the same background, but somehow I'm gonna become a doctor. Or not the same background. Like they don't have the same story as me, but that like we can come from something. So like I'm believing that God's faithfulness is gonna show for my family. And
So what are you doing right
self-sufficient.
now in the church? What kind of service you? I seen some of the pictures you sent me. Were you been on a missionary trip, or was that just back in Oakland?
No.
I was like, man, is this Oakland or is this somewhere in Nigeria somewhere? I said, what is this?
That's funny. No, I was in Malawi. I did a medical missions trip.
Oh,
out
you
there.
did?
Yeah, I spent 2 weeks at an orthopedic hospital, and I loved every second of it. So that was one of the times we went to the village. It was funny because all the kids were like looking at us from the classroom. They're like, "Who are those like Americans?" I was the only black person, but to them I looked really different. Like they were like, "Oh, she's not black like us." And so, and a bunch of white people. So they were like looking at us, and I was like, "Hey," and they were like, "Oh my gosh, she's talking to us." And like I like went up and I gave one a high five, and they came swarming out of the classrooms. And so like they were like
They all
surrounding
wanted
us.
high fives
Yes.
now.
And so we were just like handing out high fives to all these kids. And then they're like teacher, master, dean person. There's like a master or something. And he was like, he said, yelled something in their language, and they scattered. Like they were cleared out. And
It was like, no
so-
rice for you guys tonight.
yeah, exactly. They were cleared out, but they had surrounded us. And like, so
Oh, that is cool.
it was really cool. It really was. So I did 2 weeks out there.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you doing in the local church?
I do a lot of yapping.
Yapping?
Mm-hmm.
That's what
Like,
I heard.
yeah. You're not wrong. Like I yap. They gave me the mic on a Sunday here and there. I just yap. Now, I serve on our AV team. I'm not great at it, but you know,
AV? What?
audio visual.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not great at it, but you know, you gotta be willing to serve where you can. I help with young adults, and so I'm doing a lot of that stuff. And so lots of yapping. Again, anytime you give me a mic, yap.
That is so cool,
Yeah,
man.
so I do whatever I can to like love my pastors to help them and to serve our church.
You want to give a shout out to your church? What church you go to?
I go to Praise Chapel Rancho Cucamonga.
Ooh, I've heard of that church.
PCRC.
Yeah, we got a whole congregation in here. I mean, I would turn the camera around, but
yeah, church is lit. Love it there.
Yeah, that's cool, man. It's good to see all the
people.
support for you.
Definitely lots of support, lots of answering phone calls and tears, and lots of checking in and just seeing me through. Thank you, Brenda, for feeding me. Ariana too. Like, you know, like they just know how to love well.
Have you had the opportunity? Have you been on any other podcasts or any other platforms or
No.
No? Well, hopefully after people see this, they'll definitely be calling you onto theirs. There's this one girl that I just did. Well, she's she does a podcast. I forgot what it's called. Oh my goodness. It's something about sobriety though. And she's like from the East Coast. I think she's from Florida.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna send her your information. She does it through like Skype or through
okay.
Zoom, or she does it like that though, but good person though.
Yeah.
I'm sure she would love to hear your story, especially about all that alcohol poisoning and all that.
Yeah.
Just
Wildness.
I'm assuming that was your main thing. Did you ever mess with any other drugs, Miley? Experiment with
No,
anything?
I had a weird complex in my head where I was like, I won't do that. Like I wouldn't snort coke when my friends would do it and stuff like
Oh,
that.
you're one of them upper class.
Yeah,
addicts.
bougie
Yeah.
drinker. Like, catch me with a Four Loco, but you would never catch me with crack.
Oh wow.
And
All my crack fans right now. All right, go ahead and end the conversation now.
yeah, no, I would like smoke weed, but like I was afraid of popping pills and stuff like that because I thought I was gonna end up like my parents all along. I was just like them. And so it just looked a little different. But I actually am starting a podcast.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like God put it on my heart. And so it's gonna be called Can I Be Honest?
Can I be honest?
Can I be
Okay.
honest? Because like the one thing I can be is honest. And so like it's just really oriented towards young women. And I want to show like, hey, like, you know, like you're loved, you're worthy, and like let's have honest conversations about what's going on in like our world and society. And so I'm like really looking forward to that. I'm a little scared, Jojo.
Why?
Like I don't know.
Why? Yapping seems like it'll be fun for you.
You're fluent in Japanese, fluent in it.
I think you'll be very good.
Just taking that step of faith is a little nerve wracking. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, let me encourage you though, because I don't know if you had a chance to, you know, really check out my story in any kind of depth, but you know, I'm also had a lot of different things, you know what I'm saying? But I've been sharing my story, you know, because the Lord Jesus Christ came in my life way back in 92. Don't mean to give my age up, but way back in 92, the Lord grabbed my heart while incarcerated. You know, I had just tried to kill somebody, stabbed him a couple of times, and
it'd be like that.
Yeah, and the Lord grabbed my heart. The Lord grabbed my heart, and from that day forward, I mean, my life has been just transformed. You know what I'm saying? But to bring all that, what I'm sharing with you right now, though, is that sharing my story from way back then till now, every time I share my story, it's still as if the enemy has a special attack on my life. You know what I mean? He'll hit me with some nightmares. He'll hit me with just different things that trigger, you know, the PTSD. So when we're all said and done with this, you know, just stay in prayer. You know what I'm saying? Because I know after we share our story, sometimes that's when that lying devil tries to come back and remind us of the guilt, the shame, you know, try to blame us for what happened to grandpa, what happened to grandpa, you know, all that crazy stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He has a way of doing that. And I always share that to people on the podcast is, you know, stay prayed up after this, because that lying devil ain't happy that you put some hope out there.
Right.
You were being a light to many dark spots right now, and he doesn't like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I know you're a woman of prayer, so just, you know, just stay prayed up, but just, you know, have your alerts on a little bit higher in the next couple of days, because that lying devil, you know, he comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and he loves to try to rob us of that joy, try to, you know, just sabotage our walk of faith, you know. So just really, you know, I mean, of course, we don't walk in the spirit of fear. We ain't tripping off that devil, but you know,
he's tripping off me. He's tripping off me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sweating right now.
Oh yeah, he is. He's like, man, she just putting it out there, you know, because your message is filled with hope. It's filled with, and it all circles right around the cross of Jesus Christ, you know, because it was when you came to that moment of clarity, when you were able to see the light, that's when things started falling in the place that was going to lead you to where you're at today.
Yeah. I ran out of the tomb. There's that song, and it says, like, Jesus, when I met you, I ran out of that grave. And I booked it. And, like, didn't really know where we were going from there, but we got out of the grave. That's what I know for sure.
For sure.
Kind of started lighting a path.
Yeah. Well, I'm not just going to keep on, what was that word again? Yapping. I'm not going to keep yapping, you know what I mean, and hold you hostage right here. But I just really wanted to thank you for coming on and sharing that, because, you know, it's not as easy, man, as people may think it is, just to come up here and, you know, and self-disclose all the pains and the hurts that you lived by. I mean, I know, you know, these podcasts are entertainment, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, the Lord put it upon my heart, you know, to bring people like you, because I deal with a lot of families, you know, a lot of young people and older people as well that are struggling with addiction and incarcerations and, you know, domestic violence and, you know, sexual assaults and all this crazy stuff, you know what I mean? And they need to hear stories that, you know what, you can overcome that. You can get through it. You know, the Lord will see you through. You know, you don't have to try to kill yourself, because, you know, that's not going to solve nothing. It's just going to be a whole lot worse.
Yeah.
You know, the moment you do succeed, if you do succeed, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I say you're just gonna wake up in a real dark spot, you know.
Yeah.
So I do thank you though, because like I tell all my viewers, it's not easy just to come up here and disclose who you
Yeah.
are. It's like it's just not easy.
Mhm.
If it was, everyone would be doing it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I know for me, doing it so many years, I said I still feel like sometimes like I don't want to do this, but I know my story gives hope as well.
Mhm.
That's why I do it. But
Yeah.
we're gonna go ahead and oh man, I almost forgot, Rob. Before we log off and shut it down, I would like you to look into this microphone, the one on the right side. That's you. I mean, camera. Look into this camera
Locked in.
and just share a message to that young girl that's watching, or even that young boy that's watching, that's going through the situations that you went through, many years ago, and didn't see a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind just speaking into that camera and giving them a little bit more hope.
Oh man. Hi friend. I want you to know that you are loved by Jesus. Every single hair on your head has been counted. That you are worthy. He thought of you and he said you are worthy to die on this cross for. The Bible tells us in Isaiah that by his stripes we are healed. So Jesus was whipped and he was made a mockery of, he was shamed, and he was all of these things. And he did that gladly for you because he loves you so much, but also because he is God, he was resurrected. And so I want you to tap into that. I want you to believe and to know that you are resurrected. That God is resurrected. And because of that, so are you. That you are loved, you are worthy, you are able to be whatever it is that you think you can be. You are beautiful, you are known. And I want you to look at me and say, yeah, I can be better than her. Like, this girl just yaps a lot. And I want you to know that God can do amazing things in your life. Just lean on him, rely on him. And if you're in a church, well, if you're not in a church, get in one. And if you're in the church, speak up. Let people love you. Like, seek out community. Show up to your Bible studies. Pray to your Heavenly Father and know that he's going to take care of you. I promise you that.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I just want to go ahead and just thank you guys for viewing and supporting the channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to share it. Don't forget to go ahead and continue to spread the word. And if you know anybody that has a similar story, some hardships growing up, mother and father in addiction, incarcerated, or anything of that nature, I said, tell them to reach out to me so I could, um, check in with them, and maybe if they're willing and able, they could share their story as well. So with that being said, you guys have a good work week. God bless you guys, and we'll see you soon.